Deep in a valley, held between three ancient mountains, lay the most magical meadow you could ever imagine. It was known as the Valley of 1,000 Lights, and for good reason. As soon as the sun rolled behind the horizon and night spread its velvet cloak, the entire valley would light up with thousands upon thousands of dancing lights. These were the fireflies that had lived there since time immemorial. Their light, however, was not ordinary. All the fireflies in the valley were connected to its heart, a giant crystal hidden in a cave beneath an ancient oak tree. This crystal, called the heart of the valley, pulsed with a gentle, warm light, giving strength to every single firefly. Among them lived a young firefly boy named Flicker. He was brave, a little impatient, and his light shone with the brightest, fiery golden flame. He loved adventure and dreamed of one day flying to the very top of the highest mountain, Owl's Peak, and touching the stars. For the past few weeks, however, a sense of unease had been felt in the valley. The lights of the fireflies began to fade. Their once bright glow was now dim and tired. Even Flicker's fiery light was little more than a tiny spark. The heart of the valley in the cave was losing its power. Its pulse grew weaker and its light was fading. The elders consulted day and night, but no one knew what to do. Finally, the oldest firefly in the valley, Granny Ilara, whose body barely shone but whose memory was as clear as the midday sun, spoke. "There's a legend," she whispered in a faint voice. "It tells of the moon spring, which flows at the very summit of Owl's Peak. Its water is no ordinary water. It is pure, liquid moonlight. A single drop from this spring can restore the heart of the valley's lost strength." Everyone fell silent. Owl's Peak was far away, and the path to it was full of perils. It had led across the roaring river, through the spooky forest, and up steep cliffs where a grumpy eagle owl nested. No one had dared to go there for hundreds of years. "I will go," Flicker exclaimed, and his small spark burned a little brighter with determination. "I will not let our lights go out." The elders hesitated, but they had no other choice, and so began the greatest adventure in the history of the Valley of 1,000 Lights. Flicker knew he couldn't do it alone. He needed help. His first stop was an old moss-covered stump where his best friend, a spider named Silverthread, lived. He was no ordinary spider. His webs were as strong as steel cables and shone in the sun like pure silver. "Silverthread, I need your help," Flicker said. "I'm setting out for the moon spring." Silverthread was weaving a complex web and paused for a moment. His 8 eyes measured his small but determined friend. "The path through the spooky forest? Past the roaring river? That's madness." "But," he grinned, "it's exactly the kind of adventure I've been waiting for. Count me in." The two adventurers still needed someone who knew the way, and no one knew the forest paths and secrets better than the old, wise snail, Sage, who had spent his entire life slowly but surely mapping every corner of the valley. They found him munching on a juicy plantain leaf. "Mr. Sage," began respectfully, "we need a guide. Only you know the way to Owl's Peak." Sage slowly finished his leaf and thoughtfully stroked his eye stalks. Owl's Peak. He drew out his word. I was planning on going there in about 5 years. The journey is long and I am in no hurry. But if it is to save our lights, I will change my plans. And with dignified slowness, he joined the expedition. And so the small, unlikely trio set off. Flicker flew ahead, his little spark cutting through the darkness. Silverthread skillfully climbed trees and rocks, and Sage moved slowly but surely along the ground, noticing every detail. The first obstacle was the roaring river. For small creatures, it wasn't just a river. It was a wild, churning element whose current would instantly carry them away. We can't cross here, said Sage, retracting his eye stalks. But we have to, Flicker exclaimed. Silverthread just smiled. He climbed a tall tree on the bank, attached the end of his thread, and with incredible precision shot it across to a tree on the other side, then crawled back and forth again and again, weaving and weaving until a beautiful silver bridge arched over the thundering water, both strong and flexible. Gentlemen, if you please, the bridge is open, he said proudly. Flicker flew to the other side in admiration, and Sage, although it took him almost an hour, safely crossed the sturdy web rope. They had overcome the first obstacle. Now the spooky forest loomed before them. It was dark and quiet, but the silence was more terrifying than a scream. The trees were twisted into strange shapes, and fog creeped between the trunks. After a while, they realized they were walking in circles. We're lost, whispered Silverthread, tapping his legs nervously. Quiet, commanded Sage. He extended his eye stalks and slowly turned. The forest is playing with us. It's trying to confuse us with sounds and shadows, but it can't fool nature. He carefully crawled to a tree. Look, moss. It always grows on the north side. If we keep the moss on our left, we will be heading east towards the mountain. And so the wise snail, whose slowness was now an advantage, led them through the treacherous forest, step by step, leaf by leaf, until they emerged on the other side right at the foot of Owl's Cliffs. The climb was difficult. The rocks were steep and windswept. Silverthread once again proved his invaluable worth, creating safety lines and securing Sage on dangerous sections. Flicker flew ahead, searching for the best path. His light was very weak now, but his determination burned ever stronger. When they were almost at the top, a huge shadow blocked their path. Two enormous yellow eyes emerged from the darkness. They belonged to a grumpy old eagle owl named Hoot, the guardian of the summit. Who dares to disturb my sleep? He hooted so powerfully that small pebbles tumbled down the cliff. We are going to the moon spring, Flicker stammered bravely. We need to save our valley. The moon spring, the owl laughed. I guard that, and I let no one near it. Disappear before I make a midnight snack out of you. They had no chance of fighting him. They were like three specks of dust against him. When all seemed lost, Flicker had an idea. Wait,
he called out. "We don't want to fight. We want to show you something." The owl raised his eyebrows in surprise. Flicker gathered all his strength and the last of his light's energy. He flew into the air and began to draw. With his light, he painted pictures in the dark sky. First, he drew a small, plump mouse, then a night butterfly with large wings. They were pictures of light that flickered in the darkness and looked like new constellations. Hoot watched the performance with bated breath. He had never seen anything like it. It was the most beautiful gift he had ever received.
His grumpy face softened. Is, is that for me? He asked more quietly. Yes, said Flicker, who could barely fly anymore. No one has ever given me anything, hooted the owl, and a tear glistened in his large eyes. The path is clear, but hurry! The spring has its greatest power at exactly midnight. The three friends thanked him and hurried on. Around a bend, they finally saw it. In a small rock hollow, crystal clear water shimmered, not shining with its own light, but reflecting the moon so perfectly it seemed to be its liquid twin. Flicker took a small, empty shell that Sage had carried all the way on his back and carefully collected a single, radiant drop. The journey back was a race against time. They flew, climbed, and crawled as fast as they could. When they reached the edge of the valley, a sad sight met their eyes. The darkness was almost complete. Only a few last faint sparks floated in the air. They reached the cave just as the heart of the valley flickered weakly one last time and almost went out. Without hesitation, Flicker poured the precious drop from the moon spring directly onto the crystal. For a moment, nothing happened, and then it came. A blinding beam of white light shot out from the crystal, flooding the entire cave. It was immediately followed by a wave of colors: emerald, ruby, sapphire, and gold. This wave of energy swept through the entire valley. And everywhere it passed, the lights of the fireflies ignited again. But they were not as before. They were even brighter, stronger, and shone with all the colors of the rainbow. The Valley of Thousand Lights had transformed into the Valley of a Million Colors. Flicker, Silverthread, and Sage stood and watched the spectacle in amazement. They were tired but incredibly happy. Flicker was celebrated as a hero, but he always said, "I couldn't have done it without my friends." Courage is important, but friendship and wisdom are what light our way in the darkest of times. And so, for many years to come, the story was told in the valley of the brave little Flicker and his two friends who set out on an adventurous quest and brought light and color back to their home. And now you too. Close your eyes and dream of your own great adventure. Good night.